A new patch coming next week, trailers for the new Marisha map and Chapter 4 of Tides of War, and of course EA Play, as well as a massive increase to max ranks. This is your week on the battlefield. Welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more, all around the Battlefield franchise. In this episode, we have news on a new update to release next week, trailers and roadmaps for new content, as well as an increase to the max rank, the usual data mining goodness, giving us information on the US and Japanese factions, Firestorm respawns, and a new 64-player game mode, alongside the usual community news and, of course, only in Battlefield moments for you guys to enjoy. Starting off with this week's content, of course, not only did we get a brand new map in form of Mercury this week, we also got a new Tides of War challenge, allowing us to unlock the Fallschirmjäger Switchblade, a melee weapon exclusive to this Tides of War mission. If you're looking to get last week's reward, the Boys 80 rifle, you can now do so for company coin at 1700, and if you're wondering where some of your favorite game modes went, be that Domination or Frontlines, those have been permanently removed from Battlefield 5 so far. If you want a little bit more details on the reasoning and the current community debate on the issue, I'll have my own video linked down below in the description or up in the info card above on that topic. More interestingly, of course, is what is to come for Battlefield 5 next week. And there is quite a bit coming, not only, of course, because we have EA Play. First of all, in terms of slightly smaller news regarding the Mercury map, that current exclusive Mercury playlist focusing on Conquest and Breakthrough will be switched out for one focusing on smaller game modes, meaning that you'll be able to play Frontlines, Domination, and Team Deathmatch, two game modes that have recently been removed from the game, on the brand new map for next week's playlist. Also, there'll be a new game mode entirely coming to Battlefield 5 next week in form of a temporary game mode, the Outpost game mode, going to be a little bit different in terms of how it plays, slightly more tactical, slightly less chaotic than, say, Grind or, of course, the more recent Fortress. It'll be interesting to see if it is as popular as those game modes, given just how different it's going to be. Then, in a little bit of a surprise last-minute news, we have a game update 3.5, supposedly coming next week. There's absolutely no details on when this update is going to be coming and what it will actually entail. However, most likely this is an emergency fix that hopefully will address some of the major issues introduced by last week's patch. Thinking, of course, here of things like stuttering, missing reload animations for certain weapons, or incorrect damage shown when actually firing at people. That, however, as well as if the patch actually makes it into next week's schedule, is still very much up in the stars. In terms of new content announcements, however, there's much to talk about, because of course the trailer for Chapter 4 of Tides of War, as well as a trailer for the new Marisha map, the second of the two Greek maps, will be coming next week at EA Play, alongside some roadmaps for Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, and some more details on what to expect from Battlefield in the next coming months, possibly even years. If you want to stay up to date with the information coming out of EA Play, you'll actually have to tune into one of the live streams over on Twitch, or of course on one of the official YouTube channels. The Battlefield related content will be published on Saturday, so today in a week essentially, depending on where you are in the world, of course, at a different time. So 6:30 in the afternoon UK time, 7:30 for the most of Western Europe, East Coast in the US at about 1:30 in the afternoon, and West Coast is going to be a little bit of an earlier start at 10:30 in the morning. There you'll be able to see about a half an hour presentation by EA on all the information they have to share regarding future chapters and future content for Battlefield 5. Then, in slightly less speculative and more specific information, we got some details on the max rank increase coming to Battlefield 5. Not only do we now know that the new max rank is going to be not 100 or 150, but 500, we also know it'll be coming towards the mid or end of Chapter 4 of Tides of War. Most people currently speculating that this should be somewhere around August. The feature is absolutely still in development, so if you want to share suggestions, feedback on how they should change it or improve it, make sure you get in touch with some of the community managers or the developers over at DICE, over the usual channels, Reddit, Twitter, or of course the Battlefield forums. But to give you a quick rundown of the rough features and information that we know so far, is that every 50 levels you now will be earning a so-called promotion, which will reset the XP increase curve, bear with me here for a moment as I explain this, to almost the level it previously was at, essentially creating a constantly changing amount of XP needed for every individual level. It's best demonstrated and illustrated by a graphic provided for by DICE. I'll have that up on the screen for you guys to better understand the system. What it all means, however, is that you'll be able to earn and grind for a heck of a long time. You'll be earning company coin all the way, allowing you to earn somewhere around 2 million company coin by the time you've actually reached level 500. But in no surprise, the actual per round company coin end of round bonus that we currently have as main source of company coin will be replaced with this system, so that will disappear once this new ranking system goes live. And for those hoping to be able to jump a couple of ranks up because they've played way above and way beyond what is required in XP for level 50, that won't be happening. There will be no retrospective XP grant, so if you're now at level 50, once this actually goes live, these new ranks come available, you will still be rank 50 and only then be able to progress to rank 51, 52, and all the way up to, of course, 500. In terms of rewards, not too much is known just yet, only that we will be getting dog tags for each promotion level and new icons on the scoreboard. Many in the community have talked about some exclusive cosmetics for every individual promotion level. We'll have to see if that actually comes to be, because DICE has not actually confirmed any of that just yet. Now, what would an episode of This Week on the Battlefield be without covering some of our trusty data miners and what they found in the game files this week? Of course, Temporyal has been able to provide us with much on Chapter 5 so far, and he has done it this week once again, finding the US and Japanese factions now in the game files, meaning that they will actually be separate factions also in your company, meaning of course they'll have their own cosmetics, their own soldier models and uniforms, and unsurprisingly their own tanks, vehicles and airplanes. What this means more significantly, however, is that likely when Chapter 5 goes live, there will be a relatively steep increase in the amount of cosmetics and soldier uniforms available, as we will need more than just one choice for these newly introduced factions. Temporyal also gave us the interesting news that supposedly there should be a respawn system coming to Firestorm, which is much like the Apex Legend version, location bound, so you'll have to go to a certain point to respawn some of your teammates. This, however, is only being worked on as of now, so only time will tell if it actually makes it into the final build of Firestorm. Also, a new game mode has been found called Invasion, somewhat of a grand operations alternative featuring 64 players and 2 rounds per map. The first supposedly being airborne and then the second being a conquest breakthrough combo where you have to hold on to certain objectives for a certain amount of time so that they then become permanently yours. It's unclear currently if this is a temporary game mode, much like Grind or Fortress, or if it's going to be a permanent addition to Battlefield 5 or even a replacement for grand operations for certain of the Tides of War chapters. Say the new maps introduced with the US and Japanese factions may not be available on Grand Operations, instead maybe on the Invasions game mode. In a couple of smaller but interesting bits of news that Temporyal was also able to found, there's supposedly a new squad reinforcement being worked on, the high altitude reconnaissance spotting both teams supposedly, and a new anti-tank rifle was found in the German Panzerbüchse 39, which should be good news for those who are fans of the new Boys AT rifle, as you likely will be getting a little bit of variety for that class of weaponry sometime down the line towards Chapter 4 or Chapter 5 of Tides of War. But moving over to our community news, where there is an infinite amount of topics to talk about this week, and thus I have decided to somewhat slim down the detail into which we're going to be covering them. Of course, the Frontlines Domination removal was a big point of contention this week in the community, with a large majority, but not everybody, relatively displeased with this change and relatively ununderstanding of some of the arguments presented by DICE. Also, of course, we got the new Mercury map. I don't think that needs mentioning. It's been relatively positively received. I, for my part, absolutely love the map. Possibly even my favorite conquest map so far. Not, however, my favorite breakthrough map. There is slightly better breakthrough maps out there available. We also got, amongst all this news, somewhat buried, a response to the Pit Crew skin controversy, which was of course a skin previously available in the game for company coin, then removed and later introduced again for Boynes exclusively. Now, we've been told this was a bug, not that it was introduced for Boynes, but that it was initially available for company coins, and that was never intended, and thus DICE has decided to keep this as a Boynes exclusive epic skin. Now, how believable it is that this skin was both classified wrongly as uncommon instead of epic, and then attributed a certain company coin value for each individual piece so that it could be purchased and then put available into the armory to buy, is questionable to say the least. I think the larger debate here is around the cosmetics and Boynes only cosmetics in general, as most people interpreted the information provided by DICE at the launch of Battlefield 5 and pre-launch information as to mean that everything in terms of cosmetics would be purchasable not only by company coins but also by Boynes. In other words, you could always earn yourself to an epic skin. Now, while this is obviously not the case and not everybody's necessarily upset about that, it's understandable that some of the epic character skins are only available for real life purchase money. I think a lot of people, including myself, are a little bit pissed off with the amount of Boynes exclusive content currently in the game versus newly introduced cosmetics for those of us who just want to grind it out the usual way, because essentially any good skin as of now being added into Battlefield 5, be that a weapon skin or be that a character skin, is Boynes exclusive, with only scraps really going to those who want to spend company coins on content in the game. But with that, over to our only in Battlefield moments. And for our first clip in today's episode, we have Ghostbane 47 with a classic tank the plane. For our second clip, we have Itchy Kitty showing us how to deal with AT rifle users who prefer to board their enemies than shoot them from afar. Next up then we have a fantastic shotgun streak by Soldat Inkonu, taking on a couple of squads all on his own on the new Mercury map and making relatively short work of them with his M97. And lastly in today's episode we have Gary FPS answering one of the most important questions in Battlefield 5. Can you get a quad roadkill with a plane? But with that, we are coming to the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. That being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next episode of This Week on the Battlefield.